Welcome to the Deucecast Extra, the Yellowstone Season 3, Episode 5 recap.
Yes.
It is an episode that was a slow burn. I'll say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was sort of a slow burn. There was a lot happening, but it felt like there wasn't much happening. But there was more character development in this particular episode. What's some of the stuff you liked about it, Earl?
Well, so I do like that Dutton and Rainwater are kind of coming together.
The team up.
They're kind of realizing they're going, and I love the dialogue between those two. I
thought
that was really sharp between Costner and Gil Birmingham, who I think is sort of an unsung hero of not hero. Well, he's a hero, but he's an actor. He's a really good actor.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm glad he's getting a good role, a good juicy role with Thomas Rainwater. I like that. I like some of the Beth and Rip exchanges, and we're seeing a softer side of Beth this season.
Oh yeah, I mean she's damaged goods. I mean she's been through it. I mean, hates Jamie. So oh man, that's right. I mean, because there's always like been this sympathy in a way, like the first two seasons. Like I've always felt, even though Jamie is his own worst enemy, she was
brutal to him.
She was brutal to him, but now we find out why, and I think that's key.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're going full spoilers on this thing, but we find out that even though Jamie was, Beth thought Jamie was helping her, go to that clinic.
To the abortion clinic.
We find out that basically apparently when you go to a Native American clinic like that, they sterilize you.
Yeah, well,
I was going to ask you,
I'm sure that's
what
not
your
still the case.
Okay.
Because I was kind of like, really? Do they really? I mean, there's no way now they could federally do that. I mean, they're still citizens of our country, right? So they can't just.
I don't know. That's what
How does reservations work? I don't know.
We don't know. We need a reservation expert at some point to come on here and
where's
Roth in Wyoming. I don't know if he's an expert on that stuff. But yeah.
I was when I saw that, I was like, what? But then he says, "Come on, they'll take you," or whatever. I was like, to be fair, did Jamie understand that at that age, like what was going to happen? I wonder.
I think he did, because he was really. I think he did. I mean, because he came out there and she was like, "Is everything all right?" And he was like, yeah." But he was kind of hesitant. Like, I think he understood. No, I think that dude is low down dirty. I mean, I think that guy is brutal. But that helps us to understand like why Beth is such a jerk to him. I mean, because this has been a thing since they were kids. In that sense that we understand the vitriol now that Beth is always and like physical too. Like she like, her. Well, yeah, basically,
can't have kids. I was like, whoa.
And she like would have no problem like punching him and hit. I mean, she does not like Jamie, and it's because he's like a low down dirty scumbag. I mean, and you even see some of that. You even see some of that more in this episode too, with a sort of another storyline that they're trying to close the loop on.
Right, with
the
sheriff or
we see him finally get sworn in officially as the Attorney General.
Attorney General, I'm sorry.
Attorney General, yeah. I mean, and so he has elevated himself to a pretty high level. If he's the Attorney General of the state of Montana, I mean, he's up there. I mean, he's one step below the governor in a way. I mean, you've got the lieutenant governor, obviously, but then he's right up there. He's got a lot of power now, which is what John Dutton wants. He wants his people, to have power in different areas of the government, basically.
Well, he needs to do that to shut down this whole land grab that's about to happen with this corporation, right?
Right. I mean, and they're trying anything that they can. I mean, one thing that we also see with Rourke and Beth, which is a continuing storyline that we're getting. Rourke is basically warning Beth, like, look, I mean, and he's continuing to warn her, we're coming hard at you, and we will suck all the resources that you have in this battle.
Right. He was like, do you really want to go to war? And she's like, bring it.
What is that one line that she says that is awesome in that scene?
I'm the tornado and you're the trailer park.
Yes, that was so good. I mean, it's a line that I've heard in other things in that kind of like in that way, but it was still, you know, like really, really funny to hear her say that to him. But the one thing, you know, how you and I have been talking, Beth is super intelligent, and she gets that she could set up her family for life basically by doing this deal. And she even verbalizes that to Rourke in this episode, because they're offering like what
I think she's torn a little bit, to be honest.
I think so too, because she understands the reality of the situation.
I think her dad, she says, well, but my dad won't give up the land. Yeah,
sure.
She knows that she has to fight for what her dad, John Dutton, wants. So,
right. And I mean, even to the point where she's doing something that she normally wouldn't do, which is sort of acquiesce to the situation. I mean, she wants to do the deal, and it's a situation where she knows she can't because of her dad.
Yeah, and he's like, "Come on, Beth, you know that this is a good deal."
That's right, because what did he say, like 400 to 500 million or something?
Do you feel like there's a little tension, like a little romantic? I'm
worried
that's
I'm always worried about that with Beth, like in general, like that she is into going for whatever the next guy around the corner is, because I think that's how they kind of like developed her character in the first 2 seasons, to be that way. You know, we've certainly seen a more vulnerable side of her this season, you know, with her relationship with Rip. But
tear that guy apart
easily. Dude, Rourke he's a city boy. I mean, I know he's from Montana, but he's a city boy now. I mean, he wouldn't Rip would rip him a new one. I mean,
and I don't know if Beth at this point, I think she's really fallen for Rip. Like, you know, for the first couple seasons, there was kind of this toying with him.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But now I think she's seeing the value, like, and I felt even in the first season, we saw her sleeping with people to get ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like now she's not that way anymore, maybe.
Right.
Or I mean, old patterns die hard. I don't know.
Well, that's the problem with her, and that's why I said I'm always worried that she'll go back. She's really damaged. I'm always worried that she'll go back to her old ways just because it's a comfort for her, and she knows how to live in that space. This thing with Rip and being more serious, I think, is uncomfortable for her. Mm-hmm. Like, and we've seen that quite a bit, where she's like, I'm not worthy of you. You know, I can't have, trying anything and everything to get Rip to sort of be the one that says, okay, well, fine, I give up then. It's a classic pattern. I mean, with somebody like Beth, I mean, she's pushing herself away any way she can, but Rip's not having it. Rip's like, look, it's fine.
You're the one for me.
You're the one for me. I understand that you can't have children. I understand what your past is, but I still want to be in this relationship with you, which is cool. I mean, I think that's kind of what she needs. Yeah. She needs somebody like that, but that never generally works all the time for a person that has a past like Beth's. It's difficult to get through some of that stuff sometimes.
Yeah. What other favorite scenes did you like, Michael?
I mean, there's some really with this particular episode, and every episode has really good tracking shots where, you know, they zoom in on the house and really good shot, you know, wise shots of the land. But I think, you know, we had talked about it a little bit before, the horses.
The ending, man.
With,
is that where you're going, or are we there?
Well, with them having to go after these horses, and we'll talk about that particular reason that they're doing this, but there's this just really cool scene of them bringing this huge amount of horses in from the hills, you know, in order to get them sold at auction for this family. the other big thing in this episode is this is really the first episode that we get to see Casey as the livestock commissioner.
Yeah, that was cool.
And so he
kind of breaking the law a little bit.
Already he is. Yeah. Well, no, it's not kind of. He is. I mean,
but he's
he
doing
is
it for a good.
He is. Yeah, and that's the thing with Casey. I mean, he's the moral center. In a way, he's the moral center of the Dutton family. Yeah. Because John Dutton certainly has a shady past. We've talked about Beth, and Jamie, and so you've got Casey, who really is kind of like the moral center and sort of keeps that family together, at least in that aspect. You can't really survive as a family if you've got like all four people just being completely evil all the time.
Well, but he's got some skeletons.
Well, I mean, sure,
and he put some people down.
Sure, sure, and and he certainly has probably some PTSD from being in the military and stuff like that. And so he's certainly had a rough go of it, but I think for the most part he generally does the right thing.
He is the moral center. I feel like definitely now more so even.
Sure. Yeah, definitely now. I mean, and so like you alluded to, there's this situation where this rancher commits suicide just because the land's about to get foreclosed, and the guy unfortunately does not see any other way out than suicide, which is really sad. But
with all those horses he had, I mean, dude, sell the horses.
Well, right, and for some reason, he just could not see a way out. But and he leaves behind a family, a wife and kids. And I recognized that actress who was playing his wife. She looked like someone from the 80s that was in a lot of those like Brat Pack films. She was really I'll have to go back and see who she was she was really recognizable, and she was only in one scene or whatever. But I was like, wait a minute, that's not actress from the 80s that was like always sort of like the best friend. She was never like the star of the movie, but she was always like the best friend or whatever.
And the scene, that scene gave the title for the whole show. It was Cowboys and Dreamers.
Mm-hmm.
Because she was well, I'm telling my kids to stay away from cowboys or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But and another one.
And that really touching scene with the guy's son, asking Casey if he was a cowboy, and Casey was like, "Yeah, I'm a cowboy," and the son was like, "Yeah, I want to be a cowboy like my dad also." I mean, and that's just the way in that area. I mean, that's what men do, basically. I mean, it's just kind of the way. But
running to those horses though, man, I wanted to be out there. So I mean, I was like, man, that's what that would make me feel like a real man if I was out on a horse running horses.
Yes,
but across the hills like that.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Dude, it was that. So that was not any CGI. That was like literally
no.
And some of I always watch the Tales from on the Paramount.
Yeah, and I never get to see that. Yeah.
There's this thing called Tales from the Bunkhouse, and it's always like the guy who plays Jimmy, Jefferson White, this guy named Denham Richards who plays Colby, and then that other guy that I never can remember the name, but he held his badge up. Anyway, they sit around and play poker and just talk. But they're saying they said, okay, you guys are gonna ride horses and run with this pack of horses, and they're like, wait a minute, we just barely learned how to ride.
Oh man.
Like, okay, well, I guess we're doing this. But they said, man, they were like, we've never done anything like this on another acting gig, and they were just like talking about how great it was, like what an amazing thing to be part of. So they were, you know what I mean? Like it was just like, oh man, we'll probably never do anything like that again. But
it's a great opportunity for them to get to do
watch those. I think they put them on YouTube.
I need to check. Yeah, if they're on YouTube, I need to check them out for sure. I mean, it's the way that
art always comes in.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, whenever I do the DVR, it never quite catches whatever is right after. So it's just kind of weird the way it does that. But the reason, sort of kind of back to what Casey is doing.
Sorry, I know you're good.
No, you're fine. But those horses in a legal sense should be the state's, right?
They should be foreclosed by the state. Right?
They should be foreclosed by the state. But Casey knows that he can get more money for them at auction and give it directly to the family. Right. And so, like he always does, and this is one thing that I like about Casey. For the most part, he always seeks guidance from his dad. He wants to make sure that he's doing the right thing or not doing something that's going to give the family a bad name.
Right.
And he seems like the only Dutton that does that. I mean, as far as going to John and asking him, for his blessing, and John's basically like, look, it's illegal, but you're doing the right thing. So
I'll do whatever you decide.
Yeah, I'll agree with whatever you decide or whatever. Yeah, I mean, and that's and that's what John generally does with Casey for the most part. Because he trusts Casey more than any of his other crazy kids. And so Casey figures out a way to round up the horses and get them to auction and get some money for that family. Because otherwise they were going to have to foreclose and not necessarily be destitute, but who knows? I mean, they're.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't understand all of that. I mean, were they already going to take those horses? I'm assuming if they're foreclosing.
Right.
I mean,
when you're about to get foreclosed on, everything goes. I mean,
okay.
Those horses would have been property of the state at that point because of the foreclosure process. But
and then at the end, those barrel rider girls show up with a friend.
Yes, they do. Yep. And even Beth gets involved. Even Beth shows up for the fun.
Well, yeah, I wonder how Rip would have. It's funny because like Jimmy shows up with that barrel rider girl and her friend.
And her friend, yep.
And they don't usually bring girls into the bunkhouse
No, it's usually not allowed.
And of course they start getting a little happy in there. Jimmy's a little bit like, whoa, wait a minute.
Jimmy's like, we're gonna get in trouble, guys.
And then they crank up the music. Of course, old Lloyd or what's the old guy's name?
I don't know.
I still got some moves or something.
Yes, exactly. Because the girl asks him if he wants to dance, and he's like, "I can still cut a rug," or whatever he said.
Yeah. And so Rip shows up, and it looks like Rip's going to get angry. See, I was thinking Rip was going to get furious at him, and it almost did. And then he
was. He was. Yeah. That was his full intention, was to shut the whole thing down.
He said, "I knew you'd be in the middle of all this."
But then when he saw Beth, he sort of changed his way, and so Beth kind of saved all the guys because he was certainly going up there to shut it all down, basically. I mean, which is interesting to me. I mean, they kind of like allude to like John Dutton talking to Casey a little bit. John's just like, they're cutting loose. It is what it is.
And Casey's like, well, should I go down there and join them? And he says, well, and then he thought about it, and then you see him kind of assuming like a John Dutton stance. You know what I'm saying?
Well, right. I mean, you can't.
He says
something along the lines of, it never works if you're their friends, also, or something along those lines. I mean, the reality is, I mean, he is the ranch owner, so he could never really participate.
Right.
And he kind of is telling Casey that Casey kind of needs to be the same way. But yeah, to your point, I mean, Casey's married. Like, what's the purpose of him going over there anyways? I mean, it would have been kind of unlike him, I think. So I'm glad that
I like that ending where he kind of thought about it for a minute and then he just sits back down in that seat where his dad was just. I feel like that was almost like a symbolic scene that he's kind of becoming like his dad in a lot of ways.
Right. Well, yeah, because if you think about it, I mean, his dad was livestock commissioner for most of like season 1 and 2. I mean, that's kind of like one of the things that John kept himself in power, because John was always like ranch, but then also he wanted to have a foot in the government as well. So, that was kind of, the way that he did so. I think one thing that we forgot to mention, I know we talked about how Rainwater and Dutton met, but one really important thing that came out of that is that Rainwater wants his lawyer to team up with Beth and just wreak
havoc.
wreak absolute havoc on this corporation that's trying to build this basically this city. And it's interesting the way that they did that scene. I really liked it because even though and it's funny because John Dutton sort of poked at Rainwater a little bit about the casino thing, and I can't remember the exact line, but it was an interesting way of putting it from like a Native American standpoint,
about keeping the land.
well, Rainwater also admitted that the casino was a bad look, but it was the only way a lot of times that Native Americans can make any money. But ultimately that's not what he wants in the long term. In the long term, he wants the people to go back to the land.
Yes.
And he wants the people to live off the land, and not rely on white man money or less than moral ways of getting money. I mean, ultimately the casino lifestyle kind of wreaks havoc on a lot of people, and I think he recognizes that.
That was one of my favorite scenes. I think
that was a great scene. I mean, and it's funny because as I was watching the episode, and I usually wait until like Thursday to watch the episode just so it can be kind of fresh on my mind. But as I was watching the episode, even though it was keeping me engaged, I kind of felt like, not much is happening. But as we're going through this, man, a lot of good stuff happened in that episode, and a lot of really good character development. I mean, and this season has been kind of a slow burn in a way, but it's good. It's good. It's all been really good stuff. I mean, I've really enjoyed it for the most part, and I recall like last episode, the way that they were trying to frame Jamie is that maybe he was turning turning the stone a little bit and maybe going to be getting a little bit better. But man, he just went total slime ball this episode. And so I don't think there's any.
Did he?
I think he did. Well, no, I'm not talking about his past, because remember, he calls that police officer and he's coaxing that police officer to kind of move forward, not to tell. And I think that this is a character that there's very little chance there's going to be any redemption for. I don't think things are going to end. I don't think things are going to end well for Jamie. In general, I don't think things are going to end well. I mean, I think from the episode, from next week's episode, I think things get worse for Jamie throughout this season. I think that he is one of those.
I thought he was on the redemptive path, but I guess not.
No, I think the opposite, because I think for a guy like him, power corrupts, and he is in a position now that he is so powerful, and it's immediately going to corrupt him because that's his nature.
Did he tell that police guy, he said something to him like, how does it feel to now be the top law officer in the state? He said something like that at the beginning, and I thought, did he get him promoted or something? Like, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I mean,
but then I didn't really think I fully understood what he said to him.
Here's what I think the reason that Jamie made that phone call. He made that phone call to make sure that cop knew that he was the attorney general now, and he was not to be trifled with. I mean, I think that's the only. I
interpreted what he said. He said,
I think that's
able to get a phone call from the most powerful.
Yeah, I think that's the only reason he made that phone call, because that cop only knew Jamie and only thought Jamie was livestock commissioner, and now that he's attorney, he's attorney general now. So that's why I'm saying, like, absolute power corrupts very often when you have moral failings. And I think Jamie is, I think he's probably the most immoral of the Duttons in a way. I mean, and they sort of framed that by telling that story about what he did with Beth. I mean, that's a pretty immoral thing to do, to keep that from her, that knowledge that he knew that she was going to go in and get that procedure done and be sterile after it.
Well, now does she? But surely she knows now, because she's been so mean to him, right? They're probably going to do a scene where she finds out.
I think we haven't seen that, but I think you're right.
Because,
I think in general,
think about that as teenagers, you may not know fully what some of those terms mean. Now, I'm not saying Jamie might have known, but I'm just saying, like, they may have just done the procedure thinking that she agreed to it, because these things can be kind of fly by night. And then,
well, I mean, I wonder. I don't know if they were. They might have been early 20. I mean, I don't know. It was hard to tell like how old they were.
Oh, they were.
In that,
She was a teenager for sure.
do you think
And
so?
he was just.
Still,
Yeah, they were both teenagers. I think. Yeah.
yeah.
She was
I don't
pretty
know.
young.
I think at least to me, it was pretty clear that he knew what he was about to get his sister into.
Oh no, I
Um,
agree with that. I'm just saying
yeah.
I'm not sure if they just had her brought in and they did the procedure without saying much, because a lot of those places are kind. I mean, to be
Oh yeah, they probably didn't tell her
these
the.
abortion type things aren't real
He signed
forthcoming.
off. I mean, he signed off on it basically saying that he understood what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, so yeah, I think that he fully knew what was going to happen, and I think she did not know but found out afterwards. And I think you're right. I think at some point we're going to get to see a flashback scene with her finding out that Jamie did that, withheld that information
Or
from
even
her.
if she just was like at her own doctor and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to have kids." You know what I mean? Like
Right.
something.
And then a light bulb will click on that Jamie
Uh,
withheld information from her or
You're
something.
right. I mean, she knows now, obviously, but I'm saying there's probably
I
going to
think
be
so.
like some intermediate scene in between the procedure and the. Anyway,
Yeah.
enough
Yeah.
doctor talk.
No, well, no, I think that's good though. I mean, it's good insight for sure.
Good
But I
episode.
think it was a great episode. I think this season overall continues to be really, really good. I look forward to episode 6. Look forward to next week for the Deucecast
Hey,
extra for sure.
do you stand for Teeter and Colby?
No, I still am not with the Teeter
Do you
character.
stand with Teeter?
I'm not. No, I do not.
Just stand Teeter and Colby.
4. No, I do not
Tight
stand
car.
for
Tight
tighter.
car.
No, I don't
Tighter.
stand for her. I'm still not into that character at all.
Yeah,
But
she's
maybe
manipulative.
maybe she'll grow on me. I don't know, but
Uh,
definitely continue. If you know, as the kids say, subscribe to the
yes.
channel, like, share. You know, anything
Click
like
the
that
button
can
right
help us
here.
out. There's no button. I don't know
Just
where the
kidding. I
button.
don't know if
The
there's a
buttons are around here somewhere. But no, it'll certainly help us get a little further down the road with this YouTube thing, and we'll expand this beyond Yellowstone at some point. I mean, we're still sort of getting our feet wet with this whole YouTube thing, just trying to see how this will work for us. It's just another way to.
Yeah.
To listen to the Deucecast, which you can also do on any of your favorite podcatchers. We release a weekly episode, obviously, and we have been doing so for about 10 years now. So if you're a fan of the Deucecast, please, the thing that you can do right now for us that'll help us, even though we've been doing this a long time, reviews on iTunes or whatever podcatcher you use will really help. You know, get us on some lists and maybe get some people's eyes on the show that haven't heard it before. So please check out thedeucecast.com. We're obviously proud members of RetroZap. So check out retrozap.com and come back next week for sure for Yellowstone season 3, episode 6. Thank you for your time, Wrangler Earl.
You're welcome. I got to go hit the range.
Right on, man.
Frank loves
All
the
right.
horses.
Talk to you guys later.